So what I would do is just take one simple triad. Let's say in this case it's D. And I would make sure that I could find different iterations of that triad on the violin as so. The first step, obviously, is to play the triad in root position. The second step would be to play that triad in what I call extended range first position. And that's just the 3 notes in the D major triad as they fall in first position on the violin. The third step would be to play that extended range first position, D major, in all inversions. So from A, D, F sharp. The next step would be to play all the dyads as they show up. And the way that those dyads show up, if we were to separate them, would be the first to the second note, the second to the third note, the third to the fourth note, etc., such as this. But I would play them as double stops. And what you'll see is that these always show up as either a fourth or a third. So I'm going to play those dyads I just played for you as double stops. The next step would be to play the dyads in what I call spread position. In this case, I'm skipping a note so that I can play wider intervals to express the dyads in a D major triad on the violin. These always show up as either sixths or fifths. So to play them separately, it would sound like this. If I play them as double stops, they sound like this. The next step that I would work on would be to play the triple stop expressions of the triad. First, in close position, which is just this, but as triple stops. And then the spread position expression of those triple stops, where I'm skipping a voice in between. And I would do all of these with every minor and every major triad in order to commit them to memory. And once I could do that, I felt that I actually knew that individual chord on the violin. So with all the different exercises I just showed you as they relate to learning one triad on the violin, I discovered that the bigger problem that I was going to face ultimately was to play chord progressions, and that required being able to voice lead from one chord to the next chord. That means to find every point of connection between the chord tones in a D major triad and whatever chord follows or precedes a D major triad. So what I decided I wanted to work on, instead of working on an entire progression, I thought I should just isolate 2 chords connecting to each other. And over that process, I discovered that there were a lot of common chord pairs that I would work on. So, for example, let's just use D and G. So if we took D major triad to G major triad, then I could play that in the original arpeggio configuration like this. D, G, D, G. So I'm always connecting on the lowest note and moving up, and then I'll come back down. And I'm going to ask our guitarist to give me a D followed by a G, so you can just hear what that sounds like. Starting on D, 3 and 4, and D, G, D on F sharp, G on G, D on A, G on B, etc. ad infinitum. So now I would do that with all the same iterations that I already showed you before for the individual chord. I'll do all of those expressions in the chord pair. This time, I'm also going to show you different chord pairs I would use. So D to G would be 1 to 4, but we're also going to do 1 to 5. So this time we're going to do D to A. And I'm going to do the close dyads, which if you remember in D major, that's this. So I'm going to voice lead the close dyads from D to the close dyads in A, ascending and then descending if we get that far. So here's a D chord, 3 and 4 and A chord, D chord, A chord, D chord. And that's enough. So now I'm going to show you the next iteration we would do in spread voicings, spread dyads. So if you remember again, the spread dyads for D would be all sixths and fifths like this. But what I want to do is I want to voice lead, in other words, connect via the shortest stepwise motion I can, either ascending or descending, from D to a neighboring chord. In this case, I'm going to pick a different chord. I'm going to use the major flat 7, which is C major. So we're going to go between D and C, using spread dyad voicings, sixths and fifths. So here's D, 3 and 4 and C, D, C, D, C, D. So we'll do the same exercise in terms of chord pairs with the triads. So if I did a D to C, right? That's your close triad voicings, D to C. Now I'm going to do spread triads with D to A minor. And the chord pairs that I recommend, the most common ones that I recommend would be 1 to 5, 1 to 4, 1 to minor 5, 1 to minor 4, 1 to flat major 7, 1 to 1 diminished. There's others you can do, obviously. And then there's little mini progressions you can work on as well, such as 2-5-1s. But we're going to get into that next because that's sort of a separate subject when we start to talk about how to internalize jazz harmony versus fundamental harmony of just triads.